Learn English through story. The Orchard of Remembrance. In the idyllic village of Grainfield, nestled within rolling hills and vast meadows, lived an elderly man named Henry. Henry was the caretaker of the village's vast apple orchard, a role he had inherited from his father, who had inherited it from his own father before him. The orchard was famous for its luscious apples, which were said to be the sweetest and juiciest in the entire region. Despite the orchard's prosperity, Henry was a solitary man. He had once been married to a woman named Margaret, who had passed away many years ago. They had a daughter, Emily, who had left for the city in her youth, seeking a life beyond the confines of the village. Henry and Emily's relationship had been strained ever since, as she never understood why he remained tethered to the orchard. One autumn day, a stranger arrived in Greenfield. He was a middle-aged man with a kind demeanor and an aura of mystery. His name was Thomas, and he claimed to be a writer seeking inspiration for his next novel. The villagers welcomed him warmly, and Thomas soon became a familiar face in the village. Intrigued by the beauty of the orchard, Thomas approached Henry one day. "Mr. Henry," he began, "would you mind if I spent some time in your orchard? I find it inspiring." Henry, though typically wary of strangers, felt a strange kinship with Thomas and agreed. "You may," he said gruffly, "but mind the trees. They're delicate." Thomas smiled gratefully. "Thank you. You have my word." Days turned into weeks, and Thomas spent many hours in the orchard, writing and occasionally helping Henry with his tasks. The two men formed an unlikely friendship, bonded by their shared love for the orchard. Henry found himself opening up to Thomas, sharing stories of his life, his love for Margaret, and the pain of Emily's departure. One evening, as the sun set over the orchard, casting a golden glow on the apple trees, Thomas turned to Henry. "Why do you hold on to the orchard so tightly, Henry? Surely, it must be a heavy burden to bear alone." Henry sighed deeply, his eyes reflecting the weight of years gone by. "This orchard is my life's work, Thomas. It's been in my family for generations. It holds the memories of my father, my grandfather, and even my wife. It's all I have left." Thomas nodded thoughtfully. "But what about Emily? Have you ever tried to reach out to her? Perhaps she feels the same way about the orchard but doesn't know how to reconnect." Henry shook his head. "She left a long time ago. I doubt she even thinks of this place anymore." Thomas placed a hand on Henry's shoulder. "You won't know until you try. Sometimes, the hardest thing to do is to take the first step, but it's the only way to bridge the gap." That night, Henry lay in bed, Thomas's words echoing in his mind. He had been so consumed by his own pain and pride that he had never considered reaching out to Emily. The next morning, with a resolve he hadn't felt in years, Henry wrote a letter to his daughter, expressing his longing to see her and share the orchard with her once more. Weeks passed without a reply, and Henry began to lose hope. But one crisp autumn morning, as he was tending to the trees, he heard a familiar voice behind him. "Father?" Henry turned to see Emily standing at the edge of the orchard, her eyes filled with a mix of uncertainty and hope. For a moment, he was speechless, overwhelmed by the sight of his daughter after so many years. "Emily," he finally managed, his voice breaking. "You came." Emily approached slowly, tears welling in her eyes. "I got your letter. I didn't know if you still wanted to see me after all this time." Henry embraced her, his heart overflowing with emotion. "Of course, I do. I've missed you every day." The days that followed were a time of healing and rediscovery. Emily spent her days in the orchard, helping her father and learning about the trees that had been such a significant part of their family's history. She shared stories of her life in the city, and Henry listened with a mixture of pride and regret for the years they had lost. Thomas, witnessing the reunion, felt a deep sense of satisfaction. His time in Greenfield had shown him the power of connection and the importance of facing one's past to move forward. One evening, as the three of them sat together under the stars, Thomas spoke up. "Henry, Emily, I have to thank you. You've shown me that it's never too late to mend the bonds we've broken and that the simplest things, like an orchard, can hold the deepest meanings." Emily smiled at Thomas, "And we have you to thank for bringing us back together. If it weren't for your encouragement, I might never have come home." Henry nodded in agreement. "Thomas, you've been a blessing to us." "You're welcome in this orchard anytime." Thomas, humbled by their gratitude, nodded. "Thank you, Henry. This orchard will always hold a special place in my heart." As the months turned into years, the orchard flourished under the combined care of Henry and Emily. The villagers noticed a change in Henry. He was no longer the solitary, gruff man he once was. He had found a new purpose in sharing the orchard's legacy with his daughter and the village. Thomas eventually left Greenfield to continue his travels, but the lessons he learned there stayed with him. He wrote a novel inspired by the orchard and its caretakers, a story of love, loss, and redemption. It became a bestseller, touching the hearts of readers far and wide. Henry and Emily's bond grew stronger each day, their relationship a testament to the power of forgiveness and the importance of family. They often spoke of Thomas and the impact he had on their lives, grateful for the second chance they had been given. In time, Henry's health began to decline, and he knew his days were numbered. But he was at peace, knowing that the orchard would be in good hands. One sunny afternoon, as he sat with Emily beneath the apple trees, he took her hand. "Promise me, Emily, that you'll continue to care for this orchard and pass it on to your children. It's our family's legacy." Emily nodded, tears in her eyes. "I promise, Father. This orchard will always be a part of us." Henry smiled, content. "Then I have no regrets." When Henry passed away, the entire village gathered to honor him. He was laid to rest in the orchard, beneath the shade of the oldest apple tree, a symbol of his enduring legacy. Emily kept her promise, tending to the orchard with love and dedication. She taught her children the importance of their heritage, ensuring that the memory of their ancestors would live on. The orchard of Greenfield continued to thrive, a living testament to the power of forgiveness, the strength of family bonds, and the belief that it's never too late to seek redemption. And for those who visited, the story of Henry, Emily, and Thomas served as a poignant reminder that even the simplest places can hold the deepest truths, and that second chances are always within reach if we have the courage to seek them. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you enjoyed, then please like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.